The sun had barely risen over the quiet village of Obinze when Obinze-The Fisherman picked up his net and basket and set off for the river. He was a hardworking man, known by all for his strength and skill in fishing. With his wife Nneka and their 2 children, he lived a simple but happy life. Every morning he would go to the river, cast his net and return home with fresh fish to sell at the market. But on this particular morning, something strange awaited him. As Obinze paddled his wooden canoe towards the middle of the river, he noticed the water shimmering unusually. A gentle mist rose from the surface, and the air carried a soft, sweet scent. Then, from the depths of the water, a figure emerged. At first, he thought it was a trick of the light, but as the figure drew closer, his heart skipped a beat. Before him was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. Her long flowing hair cascaded down her back like a waterfall of gold. Her eyes sparkled like diamonds, and her skin glowed like the moonlight. But what startled him most was her lower body, a shimmering fish tail that flicked gracefully in the water. "Who are you?" Obinze asked, his voice barely a whisper. "I am Nwadi, the spirit of this river," the mermaid replied, her voice as soft as the wind. "I have watched you for many years, Obinze. You are strong, kind, and deserving of great riches. I can give you more than you ever dreamed of." Obinze was entranced. His hands trembled as he gripped his paddle, his mind racing. The mermaid smiled, reaching out a slender hand, and before he knew it, he found himself leaning closer. That morning, he returned home with the biggest catch he had ever had. The basket was overflowing, yet his thoughts were not on the fish, but on Nwadi, the mermaid who had promised him riches beyond measure. Days passed, and Obinze found himself drawn back to the river. Each time, Nwadi greeted him with sweet words, her presence making his heart beat faster. She would give him bags of gold, strange fruits that tasted sweeter than honey, and fish so large they barely fit into his basket. He began selling fish at the market for a higher price, and soon became wealthier than any fisherman in the village. But something changed in him. He no longer spent time with his children, and he barely spoke to his wife. Nneka, a woman of great wisdom, noticed the change. She watched as her husband became distant, his eyes filled with a strange longing. The once loving man who laughed with his children now sat in silence, lost in thought. At night, he would wake up drenched in sweat, mumbling strange words in his sleep. She knew something was wrong. One evening, Nneka decided to follow him. She hid behind the tall grasses near the river and watched as he paddled out to the water. Her heart pounded as she saw a woman rise from the depths. Nneka gasped. It was no ordinary woman. It was a mermaid. She watched in horror as her husband knelt before the creature, accepting her gifts with trembling hands. Tears filled Nneka's eyes. Her worst fears had come true. That night, she confronted him. "Obinze, who is she?" He turned to her, guilt flashing in his eyes. "Nneka, She is Nwadi. She is not just a woman. She is a spirit. She has given us wealth." "And what does she want in return?" Nneka asked, her voice shaking. Obinze looked away. "Nothing yet." But the truth came soon enough. The next morning, as he approached the river, Nwadi was waiting for him, her usual smile gone. "Obinze," she said, her voice filled with an eerie calm, "I have given you wealth, food, and power. Now I ask for something in return." Obinze's heart pounded. "What do you want?" "The life of your wife." He staggered back, disbelief washing over him. "No, I will never harm Nneka." Nwadi's expression darkened. "Then you have betrayed me. After all I have done for you. You are so ungrateful, and you will surely suffer." The river began to swell violently, waves rising higher than ever before. Obinze turned and ran, his heart pounding in terror. That night, he clutched Nneka and his children close. fearing that Nwadi would come for them. Every day he lived in fear, worrying about whether each day may be his last. But days passed, and nothing happened. He thought he was safe. He was wrong. One evening, a heavy storm swept through the village. Thunder roared, and lightning struck the riverbanks. When the storm cleared, the villagers found something terrifying. Obinze's wealth was gone. The gold had turned to dust. His fish had rotted, and his once sturdy canoe had shattered into pieces. Worst of all, his children fell terribly ill, their bodies burning with fever. The whole village was thrown into confusion, and there were lots of side talks and gossip that perhaps he may have sold his soul to evil spirits for financial gains. The gossips were becoming harmful and too embarrassing for Obinze, but he knew he had to do something really fast. Desperate, Obinze rushed back to the river, begging Nwadi for mercy, but she did not appear. He cried out, pleading for her to save his family, but only the cold wind answered him. He had refused her demand, and now he was caused to suffer. His wealth was gone, his children's health was failing, and his heart was heavy with regret. Years passed, and Obinze remained the shadow of the man he once was. Though difficult, Obinze managed to rebuild his life gradually and obtain peace of mind that he had once had. His children's health was gradually restored. Then one fateful day, a young maiden named Ifeoma arrived in the village claiming to be lost and in need of shelter. She was beautiful with striking features and an air of innocence. Obinze, still haunted by his past, but unable to resist, took her in. She seemed very sweet and innocent, helping around the house, taking care of his children, and showcasing her exceptional skills. Soon after, Obinze and his family became drawn to her. She seemed to improve their lives in a lot of ways. But soon, strange things began to happen. His children woke up screaming at the night, claiming to see glowing eyes in the darkness. The village animals began disappearing. Nneka, with her keen instincts, grew suspicious and watched the maiden closely. One night, she caught her whispering into the wind in an unknown tongue. Nwadi had returned, disguised as a human. Her plans for Obinze never changed. She remained focused to get Obinze and vowed that she must have him all to herself no matter what it takes her. She knew she had so much advantage because she was a spirit being dealing with mere mortals like Obinze and his wife. One fateful night, she manipulated Obinze, seducing him and getting him to lay with her. But her true nature soon revealed itself. She disrespected Nneka, treated the children cruelly, and even attempted to poison Nneka's food. Meanwhile, Obinze saw all of this and could not do anything because he was already under Nwadi's spell before he could even realize she was the one. The villagers, sensing a dark presence, grew fearful. Nneka noticed something strange. Anytime she saw Nwadi speak to Obinze, he suddenly acted lost, as if he was confused or he did not know what he was doing. One day, she asked him to send her and the children back into another hut, and he did that with immediate effect. Another day, he spanked his children so much that Nneka was at the market. She came back only to meet her young children in tears who narrated the sad tale to their mother. Nneka angrily stormed the room where Obinze and Nwadi were and asked Obinze to tell her to leave their home immediately. He said nothing. Instead, he looked at Nwadi, who said, "Beat her and send her packing." He stood up and slapped her immediately. Nneka quickly took her children and ran to a friend's place for shelter. The next day, she visited the village priest and narrated the whole incident. "I was aware before you stepped into the shrine. I would have sent one of my servants to you, but you arrived already." Nneka thanked the chief priest and watched him do some incantations. Meanwhile, Nwadi was taking an evening walk to the river. Obinze thought it was just to enjoy the evening breeze, but Nwadi had another agenda: to take him to her underwater kingdom. That meant that he was never coming back to the earth anymore. They were already at the riverbank by evening, and she muttered some strange language. The water began to shine and swirl. She pointed at him and was about to unleash supernatural powers on him before the village chief priest intervened. Armed with ancient chants and sacred herbs, the ground trembled as he called upon the ancestors. A powerful force surged through the air, trapping Nwadi in a circle of fire. She let out a bone-chilling scream as she vanished into nothingness, banished forever. Obinze collapsed in exhaustion, finally free of the Mami's curse. Though Nneka forgave him, their marriage bore the scars of his betrayal. He spent the rest of his days trying to rebuild his family, haunted by the memory of the spirit he had once loved, and the price he had paid for his greed. And so, the river remained, its waters deep and mysterious, hiding secrets that no man would dare to uncover again. Hello everyone. If you know you just liked this video you just watched, please remember to share, like and subscribe for more content. Thank you very much for watching and supporting me. I love you all so much. Thank you so much.